In this part of episode 13 on geometry, we're going to be talking about the shape called a circle. Now, a circle is a very special shape. A circle can be formed by taking a center point and then attaching a rope to this center point, a rope of a certain length. And the person can walk away from the center point until they reach the end of the rope, but then they have to stop. They can move in any direction away from the center, but they have to stop at the point that corresponds to the maximum length of the rope. And if you allow the person to walk in any direction, the length of the rope from this center, if you allow them to walk in any direction, the set of all the locations that they end up at the end of the rope is called a circle. The circle is this band of points on the outside, the locations that are a set distance from some center point. So here is my rough handmade drawing, but here is a perfect drawing of a circle. All the points that are some fixed distance away from some central location. Now, when you're talking about a circle, one of the most important measurements of this circle is something called the circle's radius. And the radius of a circle is this distance from the center to the circle's edge. It is, in this scenario, the length of the rope. The length of the rope that the person could travel from the post in the center to the circle on the edge. That is what's called the circle's radius. Center to edge. Now, when you are dealing with circles, there is a very special and strange number that is involved in most calculations involving circles. And that is this number represented by the Greek letter pi. And the Greek letter pi looks like this swoopy bar with two legs coming down like this. So this is what the symbol pi looks like when you draw it. Now, the symbol pi represents the area, the amount of space inside a circle whose radius is equal to exactly 1 unit. If you took a rope which was 1 foot in length and you tied one edge of the rope to a post and you tied the other edge of the rope to a person and you let that person walk 1 foot out from the center in any direction, then that would form a circle of radius 1. And the area of a circle like that, the area of that circle is a special number called pi. And the value of pi is roughly speaking 3.14. The number pi has many more digits than that, but for most actual calculations, for most purposes, you can treat pi as being approximately 3.14. And this pi shows up very often when we're doing calculations involving circles. Pi is the area of a circle of radius 1. Now, if you want to find the area of a circle with a different radius, you can use the following formula. I'm going to use the letter R to stand in for whatever radius is of your circle. I don't know it right now, so I'm going to represent it by a variable, and I shall call it R for radius. The area of a circle with a radius R can be found by taking the radius squaring the radius, and then multiplying the result by this special number pi. So just to emphasize, this expression is telling you to square the radius, then multiply the result by pi, which is approximately equal to 3.14 units. So for example, someone says, I have a circle and the radius of my circle is specifically 3 units. If this is the radius of my circle, what is the area of my circle? Round to 3 decimal places if you have to. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do, since I need my answer rounded to 3 decimal places, is I'm going to get myself a value of pi that has more than 3 decimal places. If we want our final answer to have 3 decimal places, it's a good idea to have the values in the middle have extra decimal places just in case you need them. So I will, based on the final answer, get pi to 5 or 6 decimal places first. Now, if I look up the value of pi, for example, on a graphing calculator, the symbol for pi can be located on a graphing calculator right here. It's extremely small. It's directly over the exponent button, and it's written in blue. So if I want to access the tiny pi that is written in blue over the exponent button, the first thing that I have to do is hit the blue button on the calculator called second. And after I hit the blue button on the calculator called second, if I hit the exponent button where the pi is right above that, then that will type pi into my calculator, and if I hit enter, it'll get me pi with loads of decimal places. So if I want pi with 6 decimal places, I could do 3.14159, and I would just leave it at 9 because 2, the next digit, is very small. So now that I've gotten pi with a relatively large number of decimal places, a few extra decimal places compared to my final answer here, I'm going to go ahead and use that value of pi and this value of 3 for the radius in this expression. So first I want to take my radius, 3, and square it. And after that's done, I want to multiply the result by 3.14159. And if I do that in a calculator, 3.14159 times 3 squared, the result of that is going to be 28.274. Now, I was not given units for my radius, but if, for example, the units were something like inches, then the units of area would be square inches. The units of area are always squared compared to the units of the measurements of things like length and radius. So this is the formula that we use to find the area of a circle. Multiply the radius by itself, and then multiply the result by pi. If I wanted to find the perimeter of the circle, the distance I would travel if I wanted to walk all the way around the outside of the circle, what formula could I use for that? The formula for the perimeter of a circle is take 2, multiply 2 by pi, and multiply pi by your radius. 2 times pi times the radius, this would be the perimeter. This would be the distance around the outside of the circle. And when you're dealing with the perimeter of specifically a circle, sometimes a special word is used, the word circumference. Circumference is the word that's used for perimeter around a circle specifically. And you can find it by taking 2 times pi times r. So going back to this same circle in the back, if I had a radius of 3 units, maybe for example 3 inches, what would be the circumference of this circle? Not the area, not the amount of material inside the circle, but how far would I travel if I walked around the outside of the circle? To find the circumference, to find the outside of the circle, I could use this formula 2 times pi times r, where I can fill in the pi with a nice large value of pi with lots of decimal places. And I can plug in the radius with the specific value of 3 that I found was given in the problem. And so if I do 2 times pi times 3, then I get 18.84954. If I were going to round that to 3 decimal places, then I would look at the digit in the 4th decimal place, and that's a pretty large number, 5. So I would increase this value by 1 unit, turning it from 9 into 10. And since that 10 has exceeded what can fit in a single digit, it'll roll over and it will affect this 4, and it will turn 49 into 50. 18.850. And since inches is a unit for distance, I would use inches for the distance I would travel, going all the way around the outside of the circle. Squared inches for area, but just regular inches for distances like perimeter, like radius, like length, and like width. So this is how we find the circumference and the area of a circle with a certain radius. Now, just as a final note, in some circle problems, you may be given information about the circle's diameter. If you're given information about a circle's diameter, that diameter is just the distance all the way across the circle. In other words, the diameter is just 2 copies of the radius put together. So if someone said to you, I have a circle of diameter, let's say 10 feet, and they said, what is the perimeter slash circumference of this circle? Then the first thing that I would do is I would use the diameter to find the radius so that I could put the radius into the circumference formula that we have. The diameter is twice as large as the radius. So if the diameter is 10, the radius must be only half of that, must be only 5, from taking that 10 and dividing it in half. So if my diameter is 10 feet, my radius would be half of that. My radius would only be 5 feet. And so if I wanted to find the circumference of this circle, then all I would have to do is take 2 times pi times 5 2 times pi times my radius, which in a calculator would be about 31.4 feet. Regular feet, because circumference is just the distance around the outside of the circle, and distances are measured in regular units like inches, feet, miles, meters. If somebody said, what is the area of this circle with a diameter of 10 feet? Once again, I would use the fact that my radius is half of that. My radius is 5. So the area of this circle, I would use the area formula for a circle, which says take pi and multiply that by r squared. Take pi and multiply that by the radius squared. So if I calculated that in a calculator, take pi and multiply that by 5 times 5, the result of that is going to be about 78.5. And now because this is an area, the units for this area would be squared feet. Square feet.